Shalom and welcome to a very special edition of Boots on the Ground Live. Tonight, we bring you potentially groundbreaking news that could change the trajectory of our ongoing conflict. Reports are emerging that the IDF may have successfully eliminated Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas in Gaza and the mastermind behind the horrific attacks of October 7th last year. For many Israelis who have endured immense pain since the tragic day, this could mark a moment of justice. I'm Yair Pinto with Shoshani, and this is your Boots on the Ground report on what is happening in Israel on the 374th day of the war against Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria. All of these terrorist groups are under the directives of Iran, the head of the axis of aggression in the Middle East. Before we start, please take a moment to find the subscribe button and subscribe to this YouTube channel, to TBN Israel, so that you will never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground or any other of our great shows that we produce here at TBN Israel. Let's dive into the details of these significant developments. In the past 24 hours, the IDF and the Shin Bet conducted a meticulously planned operation deep within Gaza. During this mission, our forces engaged in a confrontation inside a booby-trapped building, which was heavily fortified and rigged with explosives. This is a common tactic that is used by Hamas to protect high-value targets. Inside, they encountered 3 Hamas operatives. In the ensuing firefight, all 3 were eliminated. Now, here's where it gets critical. There's a strong possibility that one of them is Yahya Sinwar himself. This information comes from multiple intelligence sources and on-the-ground indications. Firstly, one of the other terrorists that was killed was a battalion commander known to be closely associated with Sinwar. They were often seen together, and he was considered one of Sinwar's most trusted allies. Additionally, large amounts of Israeli cash and identification documents were found on their bodies, an unusual find that suggested high-level operatives. Due to the dangerous conditions, the building was laden with explosive devices and grenade traps. Initial identification was conducted using drones and remote technologies. One of the bodies bears a strong resemblance to Yahya Sinwar, including distinctive physical features. Forensic experts are currently conducting DNA tests, and results are expected within the next few hours. Mati Shoshani?
With you, Yair. This could be a monumental moment in our fight against Hamas. I mean, it's been an exciting day, I have to say, at the least. Yahya Sinwar is not just any other figure. He is the leader of Hamas in Gaza and has been the driving force behind their most aggressive and brutal strategies. And let's not forget, on October 7th, 2023, during Simchat Torah, he is the one who orchestrated a coordinated attack that resulted in the deaths of over 1,200 Israeli civilians and security personnel and the abduction of 251 hostages. Sinwar has been on Israel's most wanted list for years. He was notorious for using Gaza's extensive tunnel network to evade detection and was known to avoid electronic communications to prevent being tracked. There were even reports suggesting he kept hostages close to him as human shields, making any operation to eliminate him incredibly complex and dangerous. If these reports are confirmed, it would deal a significant blow to Hamas's leadership and could disrupt their operational capabilities, today and in the long run. It would also send a clear message that no matter how elusive, those who perpetrate acts of terror against Israel will be brought to justice.
Yes, Mati, thank you for this. To truly grasp the impact of this development, it's important to understand who Yahya Sinwar is and the role that he has played within Hamas. He was born in October 1962 in the Khan Yunis refugee camp. This is the same camp as Muhammad Def. Sinwar was one of the founding members of Majad, which is Hamas's internal security apparatus, responsible for counterintelligence and internal discipline. He earned the grim nickname, the Butcher of Khan Yunis, due to his ruthless actions against Palestinians he suspected of collaborating with Israel. Sinwar personally executed more than 10 Palestinians, often using brutal methods. In one notorious incident in 1987, he orchestrated the kidnapping and murder of a Palestinian man accused of being a heretic and collaborating with Israeli authorities. In 1989, Sinwar was arrested by Israel and sentenced to multiple life terms for his involvement in these murders. While in prison, he underwent surgery to remove a brain tumor, a procedure that ultimately saved his life. Let me emphasize this. While in Israeli prison, he went a procedure that saved his life. During his 22 years in Israeli custody, he became fluent in Hebrew and was known for his hardline stance. In 2011, Sinwar was released as part of the Gilad Shalit prisoner exchange deal between Israel and Hamas, and upon his return to Gaza, he quickly ascended in the ranks of Hamas. By 2017, he was elected as the leader of Hamas in Gaza. And following the elimination of Ismail Haniyeh in August 2024, Sinwar assumed the role of the head of Hamas's political bureau, effectively becoming the leader of the entire organization.
That's right, Yair. Sinwar's leadership marked a significant shift in Hamas's strategies. He was instrumental in enhancing their military capabilities, including the expansion of their tunnel networks and the development of more sophisticated rocket systems. He also prioritized the kidnapping of Israeli soldiers and civilians as leverage against Israel. His tenure was marked by increased aggression and a hardline approach. Sinwar was deeply involved in planning and executing operations against Israel, including the devastating attacks on October 7th of 2023, last year. His approach often put Gazan civilian population at risk, as he employed tactics like using human shields and embedding military assets within civilian infrastructure.
Before we move on, I want to ask you today, more than ever, guys, all of you that are watching us live, to help us share the truth. Subscribe to this YouTube channel and help us reach 1 million subscribers before the end of this year. This is a great way to help us in this battle for the truth. The reality of what's happening in Israel needs to be shared globally, and your financial support and also help by sharing the truth help us to continue bringing you vital reports. So guys, if you want to help us, you can do so by donating to us through our website at tbnisrael.com/give, or by using the link that you see now on YouTube. That will help us bring more content like this one. And now back to the news. Yahya Sinwar is apparently dead in an encounter with the IDF forces in the Gaza Strip. This is after a little more than a year of fighting. Again, we're coming to you live from Jerusalem with initial reports that Yahya Sinwar is dead due to an IDF encounter in Gaza. Okay, we still do not have the final confirmation from the IDF and from the Israeli authorities, and DNA testing is now being conducted. Continuing with the developments in Gaza, earlier today, the IDF conducted airstrikes on a compound in northern Gaza where dozens of militants were gathered. This site, previously known as the Abu Hassan School, had been repurposed by Hamas into a compound and control center. Inside, our forces discovered significant stockpiles of weapons, including rockets, explosives, and ammunition. Disturbingly, they also found materials glorifying the October 7th attacks, indicating ongoing intentions to perpetrate further violence. This operation highlights a troubling pattern: Hamas's systematic use of civilian infrastructure for military purposes. By embedding their operations within schools, hospitals, and residential areas, they not only violate international law, but also endanger the lives of Gaza's civilian population.
That's right, Yair. This underscores the challenges the IDF faces in conducting operations while striving to minimize civilian casualties. The IDF regularly issues warnings and urges civilians to evacuate areas of independent operations. However, Hamas often prevents or discourages evacuations using civilians as human shields to protect their assets. And despite these challenges, the IDF remains committed to conducting operations with precision and care, targeting only confirmed military objectives. So let's talk about what's been happening tonight. It's been an incredible day, so far at least.
Yeah, listen, Mati, I just can't wait to receive the official announcement from the IDF and from the Israeli government regarding Sinwar's end in this world. But you and I both have seen the pictures of the bodies that the IDF soldiers found in Gaza, of the terrorist bodies. And I got to tell you, it looks exactly like him, or he had like a clone or a twin brother. So I am very certain that Sinwar was eliminated today. And now I'm curious to see how Hamas will try to wake up from this situation and respond.
Yeah, I'm no forensic expert, but both you and I have seen the images that were, well, they weren't officially released, but they're all over the internet as things are today. And in those images, it is incredibly clear that that person, if it's not Yahya Sinwar, it is an identical twin who has identical dental work. Because there are images online for hours now already where you can see the comparison of his previous public appearances, his front teeth, his lower teeth, alongside images of what is presumed to be the body of Yahya Sinwar. The teeth are identical. The face is identical. There are markings that have to do with the people that were around him that make it seem like there's a high likelihood that this is Yahya Sinwar. And to frame the conversation, what we're waiting for is not someone to look through the photos. When an organization like the IDF or the Israeli DOD, they go through these kind of things, they're comparing fingerprint, they're comparing dental, both of which exist within the IDF database, because Yahya Sinwar was a prisoner in the Israeli prison system. And then more so, DNA testing. And DNA testing is where we're waiting right now.
Yes.
Because no one's going to give us any kind of complete confirmation before there's physical evidence saying the DNA of this person that was found in Gaza under a pile of rubble was and is Yahya Sinwar. And I think, I'll highlight this again for people that are joining us just now. It's very interesting because this wasn't targeted. This wasn't a case where someone went out based on intel. This was yet another of many, many skirmishes taking place in the Gaza Strip on a daily basis between IDF soldiers and Hamas armed personnel. And in one of these cases, after the fact, a body was found under a pile of rubble that resembles that of Yahya Sinwar. You're seeing right now on the screen, images of the things that are happening throughout the Arab world and of Yahya Sinwar. This is, this gets in line with what's been happening around us. You have Hassan Nasrallah, the almost mythological head of Hezbollah. You have Ismail Haniyeh, the head of, that's called the political bureau for the Hamas. And now Ismail Haniyeh almost completely confirmed. When it comes out to knocking out leadership, it doesn't get more impressive. It doesn't get more serious than this. You can see on the screen right now the image of the organizational chart of Hezbollah. It is empty. There's simply no one there left in that organization. Same goes to Hamas. Hamas, the majority of their battalion commanders, their brigade commanders, their executives, both abroad and within the country, are no longer with us to continue generating terrorism. It's a very, very substantial chain of events. And something to note, Tomer, our producers writing in the background, reminding us that some of the hostages that were kept within Hamas captivity were with Yahya Sinwar at certain points. There is evidence that Yahya Sinwar was with Israeli hostages held in captivity in the Gaza Strip. We've heard evidence also from Israeli hostages released from that Yahya Sinwar, and these are different groups of people in different places, that Yahya Sinwar came and visited them in captivity. So this man, and you said this earlier, had surrounded himself with hostages to prevent Israel being able to hit him. And what's incredible, if what we're hearing is true and going to be confirmed, and all the signs indicate that it will be, is that he was struck without intel indicating that he was the person being targeted. He was just walking around armed in the Gaza Strip with several other people around him and was targeted by, we're not sure what type of artillery, but some kind of light artillery from the IDF that left him and several other Hamas terrorists killed. So again, to recap everything we've been talking about today, Yahya Sinwar, the evil, villainous head of Hamas, is most likely killed in an IDF attack. There is no yet final confirmation on the topic, but all signs indicate that this is where we're going.
Yes.
Yair, I couldn't help but feel emotional today. I was sitting at the holiday table. It's the second day of Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles here in Israel, sitting in my sukkah with my family and extended family, remembering the redemption of this land. And then the news starts popping up, the text messages start flying, we start talking, and it seems like this has been a historic day. You can't help but feel emotional about this.
Yeah, Mati, you're 100% right. I think that today the feelings that I have are so different than the feeling that I had 1 year ago, when it wasn't a long time. It was also the time of Sukkot. I also had my sukkah. When we were attacked, we heard about all the hostages, and we were called to fight in the IDF. At that time, I was called to the north. And today, the IDF is in a complete different situation, with the eliminations of all the leadership of Hezbollah and now all the leadership of Hamas. We are in a totally different situation in terms of the morale of the country, in terms of the faith that we as a people have in our army, in the IDF, in its ability to defend ourselves against enemies from within the country and from outside of our borders. Also with the Iranian attacks that were being basically useless in their ability to harm Israelis and shed blood in this country. So I think that this year, 1 year after the war, we see a different IDF, we see a different Israel, and a different defense establishment. But Mati, considering Sinwar's central role in Hamas and his influence over their operations, his possible elimination could have far-reaching implications. How do you see this affecting Hamas's operational capabilities and their morale?
I think that's a great question. These type of organizations, Hamas, Hezbollah, even the Iranian government to a lesser degree, they are based heavily on personalities. These bigger than life, not anymore, but bigger than life personalities. Yahya Sinwar, Hassan Nasrallah, Yasser Arafat back in the day. These, charismatic, very, very devoted, very, very, very religious characters who push the people around them, who push this methodology of violence. And Yahya Sinwar, now you need to remember that Ismail Haniyeh, who was sort of the political head of Hamas, has been eliminated in Iran by Israel, or allegedly Israel, a while back. He was the head of Hamas. He was the head of Hamas, period. There was no number two that people were familiar with. There are other familiar names. No one comes to a close second to him. And that's where things really get interesting. Things in the Gaza Strip, and I'm saying this to frame the conversation. This has been guerrilla warfare for a while. The Hamas hasn't been fighting as an organized fighting organization for a while, and yet the negotiations, the decision of the hostages, the situation on the ground, much of these things are coming from leadership on the ground. They're coming from the person that we now believe to be killed. And that's where it gets interesting. When you eliminate the number one, and there is no obvious number two, what happens? And it could go one of two ways. It could mean that this drags on with almost indefinitely because there's no one to negotiate with anymore. That's one option. And another option is that all the number twos that exist in the field right now are much weaker leaders, and they will lack the ability to push the people to further suffering. They'll lack the ability to postpone negotiations even further. And now we're in late October. The chances are that people will want to reach an agreement before the winter. Just yesterday, before all of this happened, the biggest headline worldwide about the Gaza Strip was humanitarian aid going into Gaza. And in everyone's head, in the back of their head, is what's happening as the temperatures start dropping and we get closer into the winter season. So it could go one of two ways. It could be a very swift end to operations in the Gaza Strip because the population and the much weaker leadership that remains behind will be pushed into a faster agreement by everyone involved. But it could go the exact opposite way. It could mean that there's no communication. There is no, homogenous leadership. There is no one party to talk to, and we have to deal with 10 different factions, families, small militias, different factions within Hamas and the different family-based militias within the Gaza Strip, and it'll make it impossible to reach a cohesive agreement that reaches everyone or covers everyone. And then that puts the hostages in question. What do we do with the fact that there are still over 101, last time I checked, 101 hostages left within the Gaza Strip? How does this situation change that? And I think that's where things get very, very interesting for people. My hope is, the hope of the people of Israel, and the agenda promoted by the Israeli IDF and by the government has been to push hard enough on Hezbollah and Hamas to force a diplomatic agreement, because these wars only end one way, and that way is in diplomacy and with an agreement that's usually backed by several other countries and organizations. So my hope would be, this is not a prediction, my hope would be, is that this is the trigger to force an agreement on the people of Gaza that allows Israel to withdraw, that allows the violence to pause, allows a prisoner exchange that brings back some of the hostages. That would be the real hope here.
Yeah, definitely, Mati. Talking about the hostages, and the families of the hostages have been waiting anxiously for any kind of news. So Sinwar was seen as a significant obstacle to their release. Perhaps this development could lead to breakthrough in the negotiations. I hope that it will, with now maybe whoever is holding the hostages being pressured to give them up and to agree to any kind of deal. But I think now let's look at some questions from our viewers. So guys, by the way, this is Yair Pinto. I'm here in Jerusalem with Mati Shoshani, coming to you live and updating you on the situation that Hamas leader, the mastermind behind the October 7th attacks against Israel, the man who orchestrated all this terrible day and started this war that now Israel is fighting against Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, the Houthis in Yemen, and other Iranian militias in Iraq and Syria for more than a year now. Yes. This man is apparently being terminated by random IDF forces, not special units, not elite units, just fighters of the IDF infantry units that were patrolling the area, making sure there's no terrorists, and they encountered 3 terrorists. And according to the pictures, according to some reports of DNA dental tests, Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, was among
not yet the DNA, Yair. We're waiting on the DNA. Let's
Yes.
clarify, we're waiting on the DNA.
Waiting on the DNA, but we have dental reports and we have foreign press reporting on an initial DNA test from the Saudi news media portal, but it's not confirmed by Israel. This is the facts that we have at the moment.
Let's err on the side of caution here. What happens with these type of events, and I'm saying this for the sake of our viewers, is that people jump the gun. Everyone wants to be the first outlet to release the item, saying this happened, here's the headline. So that's the headline, and that's the link that everyone around the world shares, be it CNN, be it BBC, be it Al Jazeera, whoever it is. There is no confirmation yet, and I'll explain again what we said. What we know is that a person that looks very much like Yahya Sinwar, we're being told in the background here that there's supposed to be a press release later tonight, or a press conference together with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, addressing the very issue of, hopefully, or we assume, the death of Yahya Sinwar, the head of Hamas. But again, just to confirm and to err on the side of caution, these kind of confirmations come after dental, fingerprint if possible, and then, of course, DNA testing. And DNA testing takes time. So initial reports, and again, this, let's call it by trial of the public. I've seen the images. I think many people at home have seen them by now. There are images of the dental. There are images of the body. There are images of the face from different angles. It looks like Yahya Sinwar. It has the teeth that resemble the teeth of Yahya Sinwar. It looks very much like him. And there are organizations working, both the police and the Shabak are working around the clock as fast as they can to try to get exact information confirming that is the death of Yahya Sinwar. And again, what an incredible turn of events. This is a man who's been on the run and in hiding for over a year, hiding underground from Israel, surrounded by hostages. We know from DNA evidence and from other sources, from hostages that have seen him, that Yahya Sinwar has been surrounding himself and hiding and checking in on Israeli hostages throughout this past year. And here, by an incredible turn of events, by what we know right now, just a regular force, a force of Israeli infantry, it's not just, a force of highly trained Israeli infantry, were able, in a fire exchange with these terrorists, to eliminate several terrorists, including who was Yahya Sinwar. And this changes everything. Yeah, this
Okay,
changes everything for the Middle East.
Mati, excuse me
Incredible
1
event.
second. We are just receiving additional report from Gaza that the divisional commander of Rafiah in Hamas, Muhammad Shabana, according to Gazan reports, was eliminated. Okay, so this is another leader in this terrorist organization that the IDF is taking out of this battlefield, and he adds up to a long line of leaders of Hamas, Hezbollah, and also Iranian leaders of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards, Quds Force, that are being terminated by the IDF. Looks like in the past few months, the IDF moved its attention to targeted assassinations of the leadership, the high-ranking leadership of all these people that are threatening the security of Israel. And it looks like the results are positive. According to the war now, let's look at the Gaza Strip. We are not fighting an organized terrorist army like we did on October 7 last year. We are now fighting a sporadic guerrilla warfare against individual terrorists that are just hiding in a tunnel, in a building somewhere, and pop out when they see an opportunity to fire an RPG or a sniper fire or anything else at the IDF troops. This is a completely different warfare, and the threat that Hamas is posing on Israel is completely different than the threat that Hamas posed on us 1 year ago. And we see the same thing with Hezbollah in the north. We see Hezbollah terrorists being more stubborn, more organized, and more disciplined than Hamas fighters in Gaza. They are still waiting for the engagement with the IDF, and they are firing back. They are waiting in their locations and responding to the IDF's attacks. So the fighting in Lebanon is harder than what we saw in Gaza. They are more trained, more equipped, and more disciplined. But at the same time, for the past, I would say maybe 10 years, we've been expecting a war with Hezbollah to have devastating effects on Israel, with more than 3,000 rockets being launched at the home front of Israel, reaching Haifa, reaching key cities in the heart of Israel every day. We haven't seen that. And I think that is thanks to really accurate intelligence information, really successful Israeli airstrikes that targeted all these launchers, and the assassination of the key leadership and the communication devices of Hezbollah. So they cannot communicate, they cannot organize, and they cannot lead their militants. That's, I think, the key point, that Israel is not facing thousands or even more casualties because of this war.
Yeah, I mean, altogether, this has been a very dramatic evening. And to recap for our viewers, I'm looking here at the background at everything that's being published right now on Israeli news and elsewhere. Everyone is seeing the same pictures. There are images that are, I mean, for the untrained eye and the trained eye, it looks like it's Yahya Sinwar. It looks like it's Yahya Sinwar, and you can see this if you Google this after the live. It looks like it's Yahya Sinwar dead in a pile of rubble within Gaza. And there are, again, images of the dental, of his teeth before and after in previous public appearances. There are images of him deceased, presumably, and there are reports from the IDF, from the Israeli government, from the Shabak, from the police, all saying, we believe this is the man, and we'll get back to you shortly with confirmation on this. And the Americans are saying the same thing. The Americans are saying, we've heard from the government of Israel, we've seen the images, we're waiting on confirmation from the IDF. As we mentioned previously, Prime Minister Netanyahu is expected to give a report later tonight. And as we're speaking, thank you, Tomel, our director, is writing that there's a news agency affiliated with Hamas that is saying that Sinwar was killed in Rafah tonight. This is the Shihab news agency out of Gaza that's affiliated with Hamas, is saying, I'm translating here, that the head of the terrorist organization was killed on the land of Rafiah and wrote a obituary lamenting his death. And according to that, he was killed in battle. He fought and did not escape. He had a kafir on his neck, and he had gunpowder on his chest. This is again a report or a press release by the Shihab news agency out of the Gaza Strip. And in the background, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant is saying, "We will reach every terrorist." A message we've heard from him many, many times before. This is getting, look, Yair, I think as far as unofficial things, this is as official as it can get.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any more unofficial than this.
If I was a betting man, I would bet that he was assassinated, Mati.
Yeah.
That's it. Just it's very hard to say that that's not the case after looking at the pictures of him, after seeing these responses from all the media sources, especially those that are affiliated with Hamas. I mean, if you were allegedly a reporter that he's affiliated with Hamas, and you will not mistakenly say that the leader of Hamas, a terrorist organization, was assassinated by Israel in the midst of a war. That would be a death sentence to somebody. Okay, so we have...
They're doing this with permission. I don't think there's a question about it. If someone that's affiliated directly with Hamas is coming out and saying this, they're doing it with permission. The Israeli government and the IDF don't say these kind of things lightly. They've, in past attacks, including Hassan Nasrallah assassination, we waited almost a day. There were rumors that he was there. No one said anything near this until it was confirmed, until Hezbollah itself confirmed the attack. So once again, to recap for everyone who's with us, one, thank you to everyone who's stuck with us. Thank you. We're looking at the comments and all the likes and everyone who's sharing and everyone who's commenting and everyone who's donating. Thank you. Thank you for standing for the truth. Thank you for standing for the good of what's happening in this part of the world. And thank you for praying for the peace of Israel and Jerusalem. I think, Yair, as we're nearing the end of this live, let's give people something to pray for and something to encourage them with. This last month has been uplifting on many fronts. I mean, it's also been hard in others, but many of the sworn enemies of the state of Israel and the people of Israel have been killed. We're talking the heads of Hamas, heads of Hezbollah, including the number ones or the number twos and the number threes in some of these organizations. Of those have been assassinated in direct strikes. Hassan Nasrallah, the legendary head of Hezbollah, eliminated. You can see on the screen right now the organizational chart of the Hezbollah. All of them, all the heads of the organization, removed in a incredibly long and impressive series of attacks. That's one. Two, Hamas, same. From Ismail Haniyeh and now Yahya Sinwar, presumably, and many, many, many others, all eliminated, leaving the stage free for a hopefully peaceful end or quick end of violence and war in the Gaza Strip. And my prayer is, and I ask everyone to join us in this prayer, is that we pray for the peace of Israel and Jerusalem, for the people of this country, and pray for a swift ending of the war and the return of the hostages home. Back to you, Yair.
Definitely, Mati. And I just want to take it to a personal note. Me, together with hundreds of thousands of Israelis, were called a year ago to wear uniform, to wear boots, and to leave our families in their houses alone when nobody knew what is happening, when Hamas terrorists still were wreaking havoc in Israeli communities. And as part of my duty, I was in Khan Yunis, which is the birthplace of Yahya Sinwar. And I got to tell you, that place felt so evil and so terrible. And I know that a lot of this is because of this evil man, Yahya Sinwar. And we were searching for him. We were searching for the hostages. And I can't wait for this news to be authenticated, that indeed the IDF was able to reach Yahya Sinwar, who's responsible for all these Israeli lives and also Palestinian lives. It's hard to say it, but the Palestinian people have been captives by Hamas terrorists in the Gaza Strip for close to 20 years. They've been also brainwashed. The school system is educating the children to hate Israelis, to hate IDF soldiers. They make us look as we're demons and monsters. And that's the whole society. Hamas rule also the civic organization in Gaza. And there's no way basically to make a living if you're not part of Hamas, one of the best jobs in the Gaza Strip is to be a tunnel digger or to be an explosive expert. These are the positions that people can actually live off in the Gaza Strip. And that's a very tough situation, okay? Despite all the hardship that Israelis is going, also the people of Gaza are suffering because of these terrorist organizations that have been taking them as hostages, using them as human shields for more than 20 years, not just this year. But this year you see it a lot more. And this is the situation. And I think that before we address some regional implications, because this has also implications on the conflict with Lebanon and on the remaining conflict with Iran, which is only in the beginnings of it, I want to remind all of you that here at TBN Israel, we will continue to report on developments in this war against Hezbollah going forward. So please continue to help us spread the truth and stay updated in real time. If you want to receive additional news stories, go to our website at tbnisrael.com/news. You can also subscribe to this YouTube channel to help us reach 1 million subscribers before the end of this year and share the truth from Israel. We'll bring you articles, updates about what is happening in Israel in this war. You can also find TBN Israel on all of your favorite social media platforms and stay up to date in real times. Turning our attention now to the northern front, tensions with Hezbollah have been escalating, and recently Hezbollah launched a drone attack on an IDF base near Binyamin. And during the soldiers' evening meal, tragically, 4 soldiers were killed and 58 others were wounded. The IDF managed to evade Israel's air defenses, prompting an immediate investigation into how this breach occurred. Hezbollah claimed responsibility, stating it was in retaliation for Israeli airstrikes in Beirut. The drone was used as a Ziyad 107 model, capable of flying approximately 100 kilometers. This incident has raised concerns about Hezbollah's growing capabilities and the potential threat to Israel's northern communities. Back to you, Mati.
Yes, Yair. Again, in response to these attacks, the IDF has strongly intensified its attacks in the Hezbollah targets. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant that spoke earlier today, saying that more than 45 Hezbollah terrorists, he said fighters, I'd call them terrorists, were eliminated, and more than 150 targets have been eliminated. And this includes missile launching sites, weapon caches, command centers, and more. Hezbollah now possesses less than a third of the rockets and the missiles that they started the war with. And if you think of the aggregated effect of what Hezbollah has lost just in the recent weeks, it's very substantial. Incredible amounts of weapon caches. They've fled. Much of their commanders were eliminated in the famous or infamous, depending on who you are, pager attack. An incredible amount of losses to them, both on the manpower side of things, of course, Hassan Nasrallah, and then, of course, in their weapons caches. And then IDF's efforts, of course, significantly degraded their operational capabilities, making it much harder for them to continue to launch missiles or to fight against IDF soldiers that are present in southern Lebanon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, Mati. And despite this, successful attack a few days ago with a drone that hit a military base and the sirens were not turned on and the soldiers really were there when the drone penetrated the base. Despite these aggression actions by Hezbollah, Israel remained steadfast. The IDF is bolstering defenses along its northern border, deploying additional Iron Dome and David Sling systems to intercept incoming threats. There is also increased coordination with local municipalities to ensure the safety of the residents. As we continue to monitor the situation with Hezbollah, remember that you can stay informed by visiting tbnisrael.com/news and follow us on social media. Your support and engagement help us bring you accurate and timely information. Bringing our focus now back to the potential elimination of Yahya Sinwar. This development could mark a pivotal moment in Israel's ongoing efforts to secure peace and stability. It represents not just a tactical victory, but also a symbolic one, demonstrating that those who orchestrated violence and terror will ultimately face justice. For the families of those that were lost on October 7th, and for the entire nation, this news may offer a measure of solace. However, we must remain cautious and vigilant. The situation is fluid, and until official confirmation is received, we cannot consider the matter fully resolved. Back to you, Mati.
That's right, Yair. This has been an incredible, incredible day, and I'd say actually it's been several weeks of this, where our adversaries in the last, for the majority of my lifetime, have been removed from the game. And tonight's events, or this day's events, if indeed, as it seems, the number one in the Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, is no longer with us, this is the dramatic change of events. It is a violent man, a hateful man, a dreadful individual who's pushed violence and suffering on his people and the people of our nation, his neighbors, for decades at this point. If he is indeed eliminated, it opens up an option for many, many changes in this region. And my prayer is that what happens? Is what happens is a rapid, positive change of events here in the Middle East, not a degradation of the relationship, but rather this is a trigger for all the parties involved. You're seeing now on the screen a small sample of those eliminated. Yahya Sinwar possibly, Ismail Haniya definitely, Muhammad Def previously, Hassan Nasrallah, and more and more and more. Iranian officials, IRGC officials, Hezbollah, almost all of their command tree, Hamas, almost all of their command tree, all eliminated. And this shows a couple things. If there was a question of whether Israel can or cannot deal with our enemies, the answer is yes, we can deal with our enemies, and we have what it takes to fight them on multiple fronts. And if the question is, what does this lead to? What does the Hamas ideology or the Hezbollah ideology lead to, or the Iranian ideology lead to? The answer is death and destruction. Death and destruction at their own hands, and death and destruction at the hands of Israel and its allies. And that's what we're left with tonight, with these incredible images of what appears to be the body of number one in Hamas. It's just an incredible turn of events. Look, I'm looking at my screen right now. It's popping up saying Hamas is saying to Reuters now. It's getting more and more official by the moment. Indications that Sinwar was killed. Sources within Hamas are now saying to Reuters, which was one of the top news agencies, that there are indications that Yahya Sinwar is killed. This is adding on to sources within news agencies in the Gaza Strip, IDF sources, and Saudi sources. So aside from there being decisive DNA testing, we've heard it from every possible source that Yahya Sinwar is no longer with us. I'm not a betting man, but I would say this is what it looks like when Yahya Sinwar is removed.
Yes, definitely, Mati. And I think that Prime Minister Netanyahu wants to announce it personally in his address to the nation in just very soon. I think that's one of the reasons that we're waiting for the official confirmation. And before we close, I'd like to ask all of you to join us in prayer. So please pray for the peace of Israel. Pray for the quick return of all our abductees, the hostages, back to their families safely, mentally, and physically. Pray for the residents of the north to return home also safely soon. Let's pray for a long-lasting security situation for Israel and for the northern communities. Pray for the resilience of the IDF soldiers that are fighting on multiple fronts in Judea and Samaria, where Mati fought, in the Gaza Strip, and in the border with Lebanon in the north, as well in the border with Syria. And most importantly, guys, please unite in prayer for the peace of Jerusalem. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for joining us for this live update from Jerusalem. I'm Yair Pinto, and with me is Mati Shoshani. And thank you to all of our team in the background making this live happen and helping us bring you news on a daily basis for over a year now. Thank you, Mati.
Thank you, Yair. I'd come every night for a live if this is the news we get.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so that is it. This was a live from Jerusalem by Yair Pinto, giving you an update on the situation that Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, apparently is no longer amongst the living. Thank you, and stay up to date to more updates from TBN Israel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and help us reach 1 million subscribers. And keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem.
And one last
Happy Sukkot, Mati.
Happy Sukkot to you, Yair, and to all our viewers.